So, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We got a very packed agenda. And before we get to it, I'm going to ask Paul Strum to give us the land acknowledgement. Paul.
Thanks, Nick. This land called Canada has been occupied by Indigenous people prior to the occupation of settlers. Indigenous people have lived on what is now Canada since time immemorial. They are knowledge keepers about Mother Earth and people who have developed Etowakbunk, or the concept of two-eyed seeing. The translation of this concept is to use the best of Indigenous knowledge and mix it with the best of Western technological knowledge to come up with the best of both worlds. There are over 630 First Nations communities in Canada, which represent more than 50 nations and 50 Indigenous languages. May we come together in mutual respect to follow the 7 grandfather teachings of bravery, honesty, humility, love, respect, truth, and wisdom. Miigwech. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for getting things underway. So, welcome everyone. This is our first meeting since October 1st, and I think we all know October 1st was a very successful day, and we felt it. Congratulations to all of you for making it such a success. Congratulations to those who worked so hard on all locations across the land. Congratulations to those who worked on the central tasks, outreach, reaching out to organizations, individuals, media and social media, fundraising and accounting, organizers who provided support to the locations, people who did the web preparation, planning, tech support, and carried out the webinars, and the administrating group that administered everything from updating the website to distributing flags, maintaining mailing lists, organizing emails. When we started out in the spring, we had about 20 people around the table who made a decision to make the call for an October 1st day. By May 28th, we had something like 18 locations signed up, and we had set the impossible task of getting to 50 locations. Well, we hit that target, then we went past it, ended up with 76 locations. Very powerful, telling us that indeed seniors do care, that they are willing to act, that the potential is there for us to mobilize large numbers, to work with other organizations and with the larger climate movement. But it was just the beginning. We haven't turned things around yet. It's going to take a lot more time. A lot more effort. So today we have to set about the next steps. So we're going to try to accomplish 3 things in the meeting today. First, essentially a debrief and discussion about what happened on October 1st. Then next, a look ahead at next steps and a review of the structure and then finally a review of the structure we've created to work with. We're on a tight schedule. I apologize ahead of time that we're going to have to make sure that we limit the different sections to the time allotted so we can be sure to finish. But there's a lot to accomplish, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. So maybe you can just show us the agenda quickly. Thank you. So 6:30, that's where we're at right now. 6:40, if we're on time, and I think we will be, we'll go to the review of the October 1st day of action, a survey, update on the documentary, comments and questions. Caroline Taylor is going to present that. Nancy Nichols is going to give us a very brief update on the video documentary. 7:12, you can see we're very precise in our times here. Future actions, we'll get to that. Comments, discussions, questions. Ricky Stewart is going to lead that part of the meeting. 7:38, Michael Barkley is going to step in and take over the issue around proposal for future Seniors for Climate structure and priorities. And then we'll do a wrap up at the end. So looking forward to the discussion, and I guess we'll get things underway and ask Caroline to please let us hear her report.
Thank you, everyone. I have the lovely duty of sharing the post-event survey results with you all. I want to first of all thank Michael, who sponsored the survey design, and Michael Barkley, and also Dave Smith, who took the first crack at tabulating the responses. We had a great response rate. We heard from 47 locations out of 76. That's 62%. Yeah, that's not 100, but I'm sure that it's quite representative. So what I'm going to do is share with you the highlights. I will send out the full report, which has more detail than you probably want, but there's some sections that are really interesting. One in particular shows how people assess the different activities that worked well, and you were all very, very creative. And so I think that when you're looking for adding, you can see that nicely. So the local organizing committees, the average size was 6 people. I think there were some, about 4 with more than 10 people, and there was one location that managed all on their own. All but 2 locations were led by seniors, and 83% of the committees reported members affiliated with a climate group or had climate organizing experience. There was a variety of groups. About a third were managed by one organization. Another third were coalitions of organizations that existed already. And about a third were ad hoc people who struck a committee together. Here we go. The projection is that we had 6,200 people attend events across Canada. The median attendance per event was 50 people, and the range was from 1 to 480. 45% of events had young people in attendance, and that's despite the fact that we had this on a weekday, and 66% had people new to the climate movement. Now, there's some strong feedback that people wish that we could have broader attendance, including people new to the climate movement. Here you can see the range of attendance. So 11 of the events were 1 to 25 people, and 7 events were 101 to 200, and so on. 77% of locations considered their event successful. An additional 21% were mixed, and there mostly the comments were it was lower attendance than they hoped, and acknowledgement that we had short timelines. Only one location considered their event unsuccessful. One of the overwhelming pieces of feedback is people really, really were thrilled about being with like-minded people and working with like-minded people in their communities. Of the activities that went well, the arts really, really stood out. People spoke to music, singing, dancing, the flash mob, readings, poetry readings. 20 locations spoke about their speakers being something that worked well, and then combining rallies, marches, walks, and visits, 11 locations noting that as especially successful. 27 locations had politicians attend. At 6 other locations, they invited politicians but did not come, and 14 locations did not invite them. I looked at the mix there in terms of BC versus the rest of Canada because BC was undergoing an election campaign and the patterns were similar. In terms of media coverage, 79% of locations reported getting at least some media coverage, and Rolly provided us with a national media analysis. I think Christine Langlois worked with us as well. And it showed that we got 297 mentions in total. That's the area under this graph. And they were concentrated around October 1st. So that's what this graph says. The axis is from September 27 through October 5th. So we got a little follow-up coverage October 2 and 3, but the peak of it was here. Those mentions varied, about a third for online, a third on TV, and another third on radio, and then in print, 18 mentions. And that, of course, speaks to we don't have many printed papers anymore. What would you change? So 4 locations said they would change nothing. Others spoke to having more or different activities, and that's where that list I referred to could be really helpful. More promotion and outreach, even though the coverage was quite thorough, people wanted more, of course. Find a way to attract the broader community and those not yet alerted to the climate emergency. Strong feedback about choosing a different date, a weekend, which would allow people who are working and children or youth, the young people, to attend. and not October 1st being directly after Truth and Reconciliation Day. Start planning sooner, and we have 12 months now, which is lovely. That feels like a luxury. And people wanted to spread out the work, get more people involved in the organizing and all the work there. And again, that's very true. Feedback on the central organizing team, and I just wanted to share this. All locations agreed that the central organizing team's support was useful, which on behalf of the team, I know is very gratifying. Most types of support were deemed useful, and I've got a chart on the next page that shows that. But the following rows to the top, when we had one question that asked what single type was most important. And the help and the solutions and the encouragement and the inspiration and the vision from the central team were noted by 34% of people. And there were definitely shout outs to the two reps for the different locations. The graphics, the logos, and the printable assets, certainly by 15%. The flag and banner and those emissions caps, 11%. Again, these are choosing the most important. So the lower numbers are not an indication people had trouble choosing, I think. Feeling part of a national movement and working with like-minded people, 11%. And the financial grant was certainly appreciated. So these are the single most important choices. And now here are the check all that apply. And in this, I hope you can see some of that. I'm looking at elements of the toolkit, other resources. An example is the website and the national map, and then other kinds of support that were not things. The areas in pink is anything below 40%. And so you can see that there was strong agreement that the toolkit was helpful, and as well as some of the resources, and then these monthly organizers meetings, email communications, and the support for the people in the province. Okay, suggestions and feedbacks and ideas. These were in a couple of the last questions. Many locations said, let's keep this going. That enthusiasm is there. And I think the fact that you're all here tonight is another testament to that. There is a desire to be involved in some of the strategy discussions. I already spoke about the date. Some called for more frequent events and more in terms of keeping people involved throughout the year locally, but others noted that they couldn't do more than one. And then other people spoke to strengthening the connections within the SFC movement. And a couple of examples of this are these kinds of meetings. One location twinned with the Toronto location and found that helpful. But I think that in in all of these meetings, we draw strength and inspiration from each other. And that is it for me. I'm going to stop sharing my slides. We'll have Q&As after Nancy speaks to the documentary. And there we go. I'm going to remove my spotlight. And Nancy, if you could unmute and join the conversation and talk about your documentary.
Okay, I'll be very, very brief. I just wanted to thank people for sharing a tremendous volume of material. I don't actually have a firm count on all the communities that have shared material, but I think it's somewhere around 50 different communities. It's going to be challenging to put this together. I will be in touch with people as I'm developing this. If I have questions to clarify the name of a speaker, or if I have some technical issue with downloading a file. I've started downloading things. So far, I've just been organizing it on the online. So I've been in touch with I think almost in touch with everyone who's shared material, and so stay tuned, and I hope as I communicate back and forth with you that we can share information as I need it, and I think a timeline on this, don't expect it until, into the new year. End of January, early February would be ambitious, given the volume of material that there is. That's my hope, though, because for it to be relevant, I think it needs to get out early in the new year. So, okay, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so I gave you a capsule comment of a document that's about 20 pages, or as a capsule view, and now we'll open it up for any questions and answers. Please put up your Zoom hands. That's the easiest way for me to make sure that you all get a chance in turn. And we'll start with Lori.
Oh, sorry, my camera is covered. Hi from Penticton, BC. I was just wondering, Nancy mentioned that she contacted everyone. I uploaded photos into a folder, and Nancy didn't contact me, so I'm wondering if I put it in the wrong place. So maybe someone could let me know. And I just want to say how great it was to work with all you amazing organizers. You guys are phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of everyone. I get the honor of saying thank you for that. Nancy, could you speak to the question, or do you want to get back to Lori about the photos?
Okay, I'm just looking to see if I can find it right now. Penticton.
And
How about,
Sorry?
how about, I'm going to suggest that maybe you answer by text,
Okay.
Nancy, to Lori.
Yeah, Lori, can you put your email in the chat box?
That's what I meant, chat, not text. Thank you, Lori. Next is going to be Louise Como.
Hi, good to see everybody. Just because it might be in the report, but wasn't mentioned, I wanted to ask, because I'm always thinking about fundraising and know how important it is for funders to show in-kind and other financial contributions. It would have been great if we had thought about having it in the survey, but I'm wondering, is there a way to kind of get a sense of not just the volunteer time, which is real time, but also many of us donated quite a bit of money to cover different expenses. And it would be great if we could record that somewhere so that it makes a contribution to future fundraising. So that's one question. The second one is, there's a huge difference between event and activity. And so because we were primarily volunteer, even though we had some organizational support, we were primarily volunteer. It was pretty exhausting to do what we did do, it was great and fun and awesome. But there is a desire. People want to, can we do letters? And so I'm wondering if we can maybe at some point chat about the difference between events and activities that still allow for ongoing connectivity and engagement, event to event. Thanks.
Yeah, so speaking to any questions that bubble up that we wish we had the answer to, I'm happy to commit that we can do a second survey and collect that kind of information. And that's pretty easy to get out while it's still fresh. So we'll note that. Nick, could you speak to?
Yeah, so we'll talk in the second section a bit about what you just raised there, Louise. And the next point of the agenda. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Louise. Donna Fay.
Donna Fay from London. We had a terrible time. We had 4 hecklers with megaphones with prior knowledge that they were coming. They were, what were they called? Oh, it was like gorillas with dangling hands. Yeah. And in the material that I sent Nancy, you can hear the stupid idiots yelling and screaming at us. The police said they can't do anything unless they're so aggressive that we feel unsafe. And one of the politicians finally called them, and they finally came. But we did a review, and that was the main thing people said. It was terrible. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Donna Fay. And I think I saw that response in your survey response. And one of the things I noted in the knowledge bank that people asked for is that item for any guidance people have for dealing with situations like that. And so that way it'll be captured probably, even in a little handbook for next year to be prepared. Awesome. Thank you. Stu Clark. Stu, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Stu Clark from Whitehorse. Our October 1st dawned with the first snow on the ground and -5 temperatures and pretty gray. I thought we would be lucky to get 25 people out. We had 100 people out. So it really shows that there's a value in providing an opportunity for people to come together and be aware that there's a community. But the organizers ourselves, we tried to do a rough count and we thought we had probably 70% choir and 30% new people. And it was quite a lot of work to put it together. So we wanted to table the idea that SCF might look at engaging a marquee speaker to do a speaking tour across the country, because we know that we get a lot of new people out when there's somebody who's well known that comes to Whitehorse and speaks at the Art Center or something like that. So I realize that's not a small undertaking, but I think in terms of reaching new audiences, which will be critical over the next year as we go into the federal election, that this might be a really useful tactic. And that's all I wanted to suggest.
That's a really good idea. And Nick, I know you're noting that for that. And again, bringing the non-choir people. Somebody mentioned that seniors can be not afraid, but a little uncertain about joining a rally or a protest, and noted that the rocking chairs that that one location did might be a way of easing that in. It's a very senior friendly activity. So your concern was shared by many locations. Thank you. Letitia.
Hi, yes, I'd like to back what was just said. When Bill McKibben came to speak in Ottawa last year, we got more people out at that event, even though it was at Carleton University, which is not easy to get to. That was a huge turnout, and we should have, taken more advantage of it, but we didn't plan for it. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea, a good way to focus.
Excellent. Thank you, Letitia. Are there any more questions about or comments about the October 1st events? I don't see anyone's hands raised, which suggests that you all want to talk about the future.
Okay.
Great. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Caroline. Really good. Thanks for the input from everybody. We're going to move on to ask Ricky Stewart now to talk about the future. Ricky.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for participating. It's my pleasure to present the ideas that the steering committee has heard for what comes next. And they were on the agenda, but I want to take a few minutes to elaborate on them and to say that the purpose of this session is to hear your questions and comments, and at least two people, Louise and Stuart, have made proposals about future actions already in this meeting, and I'm sure there will be more. We want to try and take a straw poll at the end of our discussion to see where the most energy is. But we do want to take a minute to outline the proposals. So, Caroline, if you could put them up. Okay. So the first one is, we heard you about October 1st. But the steering committee, this is the one area where we are pretty solid, that we would like to propose another countrywide action on or around October 1st, 2025. We think it is too good an opportunity to miss out, and that this gives us lots of time to prepare and to try and do an even better job next year. So the second proposal is an idea, but it has not, that we'd like to test out. There was a feeling that if we wait until October of next year, we might lose some momentum, and that it would be better if we could also think about a countrywide action in the spring of 2025. We felt, the people on the steering committee, as we discussed it, thought that it might be too ambitious to have a similar level of event just as Seniors for Climate, because it took a lot of energy and work to organize the existing activities and events. But perhaps we could do it in collaboration with other organizations, perhaps around the COP, perhaps around Earth Day, perhaps around another opportunity, if there is a way that Seniors for Climate could support the climate movement as Seniors for Climate without undertaking something quite as massive as the October the 1st event or activity. So we'd like to get your feedback on that idea. The third idea that has come forward is for local groups to plan and implement local actions. Several of the groups that we heard from said, we don't want to stop. We want to have more climate conversations. We want to have another event. We want, so there are opportunities for the local groups to continue to plan and implement their own actions. In some cases, people want to collaborate with other local climate organizations, but use the Seniors for Climate banner. And finally, under this number 3, the third option is that they would that the groups that plan the October 1st activities want to continue to work within other organizations to boost the climate movement in their community without necessarily using the Seniors for Climate banner. That might depend on what the activity is, who is leading, how it's organized, and so on. But the intention of this third option is to continue to give encouragement to local groups to plan and implement local actions, just because it will be part of increasing the number of people who are active on this issue. And it can also provide really excellent material to be shared with other communities and other groups. The steering committee does not feel that it is the steering committee's job to dictate local actions, that there should be a great deal of initiative and encouragement for Seniors for Climate to grow in communities and do what suits their context. So that's the third option. The fourth option is that there might be an election next year. And there might be additional opportunities for either, probably not for events, but more like activities. And an example would be meeting with candidates, for election candidates, to test them or to speak to them about their position on climate change, or letter writing campaigns in advance of or during an election. So there are if 350.org or Third Act becomes more active in Canada, as they have been thinking about after the US election wraps up, depending on the results there, they may become more active, and that may provide another opportunity for additional collaboration. So on the fourth option, we don't know what will come up during the year, but we're hoping that that there may be additional activities. And then the question is, will we have the capacity, and what capacity will it take? And that is something that we would like your feedback on. What do you think of the National Steering Committee thinking about promoting additional activities? Stu's speaking tour, or what other things? Webinars, learning sessions, or resource materials. All of those kinds of things are possible, but they will take resources and they will take capacity. And the steering committee would look very closely at the trade-offs. Certainly, options 1 and 2 will take a lot of energy. Option 3, not so much from the steering committee. So the question becomes, should we be thinking about other kinds of opportunities as well? So those are the options. And in a few minutes, at the end of this part of the session, we'll take a straw poll where you can give your reaction to each one of those ideas and tell us whether you like them or not. And we will also encourage you to consult with your groups and give us more feedback if you need to take the time to do that. So with that, I'm going to stop and look at questions and comments, and Nick is going to help me because I'm on an iPad and I can't manage the hands up.
Great. Thank you very much, Ricky. So please use the Zoom hand. If you don't know how and can't, wave your hand like crazy, and somebody will see and we'll make sure we accommodate you. So Susan Elston, please.
Yeah, thank you. We were really happy with the support. It was fantastic to get the resources, the graphics. My question is, we would like to follow up. We had about 50 people, and subsequent to that, there was another, Durham region had a roundtable on climate change last week, and there was another group of people who've been signing up. So we're really building momentum. I was hoping to send an email to everyone who supported us for the event and subsequent events to say, what are the next steps for seniors for climate? And I was hoping, we talked about this earlier about the petition, and I was hoping to be able to send everyone a link to say, we're just starting now, here's your voice, use your momentum, and where they could sign the petition. It was my understanding we were going to use this as a tool to leverage the House of Commons. So that was my question is there an opportunity? Is the petition still online? Can we still do that? We had our event on the Sunday, which was fine. We still called it Seniors for Climate, and we can still say it's to honor Seniors Day, but I had no problem doing it on the weekend. And our MP even showed up, and he didn't grandstand. He just listened, which was quite amazing. Spoke afterwards about what his commitments were, but I was very impressed because I'm never impressed with politicians. So is there a petition? Can people continue to sign on it? I think we should do this as an annual event. And what I've learned subsequent to this is there's a tremendous amount of misinformation. People who are opposing, we have a new group in Durham called the Durham Freedom Fighters. And they're opposing, I swear to God, I went, you're making this shit up, right? Sorry, potty mouth. And they're opposing any, walkable cities or climate action because they think their rights are being taken away, that they won't have golf courses and they won't be able to find gas. So I think there's a real opportunity for measured, intelligent, senior type dialogue. Now, dear, don't panic kind of information out there that there seems to be missing. There's a tremendous amount of misinformation and a tremendous concern that somehow us radicals are taking away people's rights. So those are my comments.
Thank you. I'm going to suggest we take a number of comments before Ricky responds, or others may respond from the steering committee, because I think that will help the discussion flow better, but we noted your points. Letitia? And can you say where you're from when you speak, please, if you don't mind?
Scan Ottawa. I found the social media and media training workshops that were provided by the Central Committee to be really useful. And I'm wondering if something similar could be provided for political action, to prepare for what to do on the ground for elections, provincial or federal. It's very similar. I don't think it has to be two separate kinds of workshops, but how to work locally on the ground with other organizations to survey and organize all candidates meetings. That kind of training might be very useful for the upcoming elections.
Okay, and did you have any comment on the other proposals, the spring and the?
I am not going to be closely involved on the ground for the next event, so I feel like I shouldn't speak up. But I'm. If people were willing to organize something in the spring, I think it would be awesome. I just probably won't be one of them. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Sherry Hillman?
Yeah, I think some of the ideas outlined for future events and next steps are exciting. But I'm confused and concerned by number one. Because what I thought was clear from the evaluation is we would not do something on October 1st
right.
because of the proximity with Orange T-shirt Day on September 30th. But from what was just said around number one, on or before, that was the number one recommendation of the steering committee. So I thought on October 1st was off the table, and I would really, really urge that it be off the table. We had a discussion in ISC, Indigenous Solidarity Committee of SCAN, and that was universally the feeling. And our understanding was that the conclusion drawn was we would not do that again. Just to emphasize it, not only does it reflect a lack of sensitivity to hold our nationwide event the day after Orange T-shirt Day. In practical terms, for example, I didn't mention where I was from, sorry, Kawartha Lakes. Our event for Orange T-shirt Day on September 30th had over 300 people, but we only had 60 people at our Seniors for Climate. And a lot of the wonderful progressive people who were out for Orange T-shirt Day supported it. But, as seniors, people, can only have so much energy and are only going to go out to so many events. So it really hurt the turnout of our event, having it right after the Orange T-shirt Day. And I also just wanted to support the idea of doing something with the petition or the pledge. We ended our event with all of the people who had spoken and all of the musicians at the front taking the pledge and, encouraging people to go online and sign it. I don't know how many actually did, but yeah, I think that we can carry that forward and keep some momentum going that way.
Okay, thank you. Ricky, maybe we should just clear up the October 1st thing, because I think, do you want to address that?
That's right. We don't want, if anybody is really insistent on doing it on October the 1st, we didn't want to say that was not possible, but certainly all the feedback we've had agrees with you that October the 1st is not a good day, that it would be more useful to have perhaps a reference to Seniors Day, but to have, first of all, to have it on a weekend, and secondly, not to have it as close to September 30th. So where that was would depend on the community and the organizers, but there is no proposal to have it on October the 1st. When the steering committee discussed it, they said on or around, but as far as I know, there was no feedback that October the 1st was a good day.
Yeah, I think October the 1st is off the table essentially.
Yeah.
Unless somebody wants to put it back on, but I think that's the case. The other thing, just to clarify, there's the pledge, which is an ongoing thing. The petition came up, but it isn't as of yet an ongoing thing, just to clarify what actually happened. When we get into the discussion about different ideas, of how we carry on, it's just important to keep in mind. So, for example, a tour, the kind of resources necessary to have a big name person tour the country, phenomenal amount of resources. So just to keep some of those things in mind. And we're going to come at the end about how we're organized and what we can accomplish. Stu Clark?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to make the point that we might have a federal election called at any time, that we have a minority government, and of course the Conservatives would like nothing better than to make it happen, and they might be aided at some point. So my only point was, if we could have a contingency kit of just a few materials that we could mobilize quickly, because these sort of things happen on a 3 or 4 week timeline if it's a snap election, which isn't a lot of time to sort of start from zero and managing something. But if we had some stuff in our back pockets, and I realize that there's not a limitless amount of energy to make all of this happen, but if there could be a few things around the theme of carbon pricing, emission cap, which will be two pretty hot issues in the federal election, that could be really helpful for local groups.
Okay, thanks, Stu. Muriel Jarvis. And can you tell us where you're from, Muriel?
Yeah. Hi, Muriel Jarvis from St. Andrews, New Brunswick. And I just want to start by saying how pleased I was to be part of this national initiative. We're a small town in New Brunswick, but we had almost 75 people come out for our rally. So I was very pleased with that. One of the suggestions that you put forward was to have something to prepare for an election. So I want to speak to that because New Brunswick just went through a provincial election and there was very little discussion on climate change, climate emergency, environmental issues, hardly any. So I guess I just want to echo what Stu just said. If we had something prepared with questions, responses, accurate information that we could use in the event of a federal election, that would be very helpful because it would then get those issues on the table. When there were, whatever they call them, when the candidates all come together, the interviewers never asked any questions about climate change. So we could change that. And the second point I wanted to make is I'm wondering whether we could consolidate our energy provincially in some aspects. For instance, in New Brunswick, we could probably consolidate all the smaller towns and cities into one big event. And it might make more of an impact, especially during an election, to have everyone come together in the capital of the province, as opposed to small groups of people in smaller areas. So I just jotted down, is there more impact of having 25 people in 70 locations or 300 people in 20 locations? So I'd be very pleased to be part of a New Brunswick initiative if the other communities in New Brunswick wanted to get together and we could form a provincial committee to do one big event. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Just a couple of things. One is that the whole model we have is local groups to initiate things and then develop and continue working. So that's under 3, I think, item 3. And you know, if people at a provincial level gather together to do something, that would be great. I think that's, you know, but how much we're going to be able to encourage it centrally is a question, more something you'll have to figure out you can do locally, I would think. Also, can I ask people to speak to option, you know, at least say yes or no to the options, the other option around a spring mobilization when you speak. Go ahead, Dave Gregory.
Okay, this is Dave Gregory from Kootenay Lakes, which is located around Nelson, BC. And I really want to say 2 things. One is that I see no contradiction between doing all 4 of these. It seems perfectly possible for us. We're only a small group, but we clearly want to do something next year. I think for whatever thing we do nationwide next year, it should be on one particular day. I don't think it's a good idea to let different groups spread themselves over different days. Now, personally, I have no problem with October the 1st. We did ours on October the 1st like everybody else, and we had no problems with local Indigenous groups or so on being upset about that. It was all perfectly okay. But if the choice is the next Saturday or something, Saturday before or after, that's fine by me too. But I think everybody should be doing it on the same day, because the whole point is a national movement with lots of things happening simultaneously.
Thank you.
As far as doing something in the spring is concerned, I think that's a very good idea, partly because I think it's likely to be in some way connected with a federal election, which is likely to, I think, going to happen after a budget in the spring. But I also think it's a very good idea to have something major nationally that keeps momentum going, and leaving it for a whole year is not a good idea. So great to have that. We will certainly try and do some local and small initiatives. So number 3, I think, works for us too. We really appreciated the help we had in doing the first one. We now have a bit more experience. We also know which local groups were interested in working with us. For example, we didn't just do the demonstration on the 1st. We also took part in organizing a electoral forum for the BC election based on climate issues specifically. And we got 3 out of 4 of the candidates. The Conservative wouldn't come, but the other 3 did: Independent, NDP, and Green. And it was a really excellent forum. It was in a large church and hall, and it was absolutely packed. In fact, we had to turn people away at the door. So that was a very, very valuable second initiative that we did. And that sort of thing we would like to continue with in collaboration with local groups. And I think that fourth, that as a small place in a relatively remote part of BC, we're not near any very large population centers. It is really difficult for us to get major name figures to come unless they are part of an ongoing tour. But I know that if we have somebody like Avi Lewis or Naomi Klein or David Suzuki, one could probably go through a list of suitable names who might do this. They would come here and we'd certainly fill a large hall. So I would love to see that happening. I know it takes a lot of organizing it. It involves getting the person way, 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 way in advance to commit to it. But it would be worth it from our point of view. So I think that's my say-so on the 4 things. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm going to have 7 hands up now. I'm going to suggest we just take those 7 There will be a poll following that, but we have to move the agenda along. And, if you can try to be concise in your comments, I think we can still stick within our timelines. That okay with you, Ricky?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll
And,
do the
please,
7.
please,
What is it?
please use the
3,
chat.
6, 7. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Michael. And if you have
Okay.
other comments you want to make, use the chat. Thanks for reminding me of that. Okay, so Lynn.
Hi, I'm in Castleman in Eastern Ontario. I agree with the idea that I think it's important to do something in the spring, just for the momentum. And whether it was something related to an election or something else, that doesn't matter to me, just so long as there's something. The other thing was I would like a little more clarity on what it would mean to do a local event, quotes, under the banner of Seniors for Climate. That's all.
Okay, Ricky, did you want to address that? That we just
Yes.
get that?
Yes. What we discussed when we put forward this proposal is that it would be aligned with the pledge. So that if the event that the group is planning falls underneath the ambit of the climate pledge and the goals of Seniors for Climate, then the group should feel that they can use the flag and the posters and the logos and so on to promote the idea. So it's largely going to be your own group's decision, but those would be the guidelines that we would give.
Thanks, Ricky.
Great,
Nancy?
that sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Nancy? Nancy Mitchell? Okay.
Hi. Actually, this is Phyllis. I'm here.
Okay.
I didn't log in as myself.
That's okay.
My question is similar to the previous one, because here in Kingston, what I thought was really the most successful aspect was that we were part of this nationwide mobilization. We've done various things in Kingston, but what would it mean? What would it mean for us, say, to go forward as Seniors for Climate, as opposed to going forward as SCAN? I'm not quite sure why. I mean, the Seniors for Climate is a national mobilization, and I think we should continue to be part of that. But there aren't other groups, other seniors groups that we could bring in under the banner of Seniors for Climate, and I'm not quite sure what the purpose is of that.
Okay, so let me try to address that. So the Seniors for Climate is a coming together of different groups to organize mainly on a national events across the country at the same time. And every situation is different. In some cases, there were no groups and people started something. In some cases, there were groups that worked together that are various different groups. So what we're saying is we're encouraging people in terms of what you built to keep building. It's not saying that you must or mustn't, or you should or shouldn't. It's just that whatever your situation is, if you've moved ahead and you think you can move ahead further, we're encouraging that, and we're encouraging that as part of building towards the next common actions that we do. But I think it's true that we can't see ourselves as we see ourselves more as a movement where we can identify with common things we're doing, and that gives people more of a sense of strength. But locally, each group and each situation, you assess what makes sense for you. So I hope that helps. Alan?
Yes, hi, Alan Silverman. I'm from SCAN in Toronto, and I support the idea for continuing something in the spring because there is this momentum, and as others have said, we need to continue. My comment on this is that I think the more focused this event is, the better. So we tied this to, in this case, National Seniors Day, Seniors for Climate, and we had a couple of demands. But I think that the more focused it is, the better we will be able to put pressure on the powers that be. Many have mentioned that this is linked potentially to an election. And I think even if it hasn't been called, it will be getting closer. And therefore, we need Seniors for Climate needs to take that into account. My only thing is that for me, the best way of using an election is to put the accent on raising the issues, such as our colleague from, apologize, I forget the location in BC, a small part where he said there was an all candidates meeting, that the accent is put on that type of activity which mobilizes and educates people, as opposed to putting a lot of accent on trying to get candidates to change their positions, because that is much more difficult and can be going down a rabbit's hole. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks. Janet?
Yeah, thanks. I'm Janet Graham from Ottawa, SCAN Ottawa, and also the Council of Canadians Ottawa. And I agree with all four of the suggestions. In particular, I'd like to just speak about the area that I was involved in. That's the flash mob dance. We are planning to have some activities in the spring already with other flash mob groups. So I think that's an excellent idea to have that as an ongoing basis. It would be very helpful for us if we were informed on how to upload our choreography so that it could be available to anybody in Canada who wanted to use those dance moves. This year we used the Toronto dance moves, and next year we want to have perhaps Ottawa do another song to different dance moves, and have it available to people who are in wheelchairs or seating. So there would be one choreography edition for that, another one for people who are more mobile. So if someone could inform me on how to get, I'm going to be having the choreography done in the next month or two, and it would be great to have it available to everybody in Canada if that's possible.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure we can arrange that through the website. Okay, Lois?
Hi, I'm here in Yellowknife. I appreciate all the work that everyone's done, and I'm in total support of the actions in the spring, and again, another event next fall. I guess I am, and the group here are focused on the local. For people in smaller communities, I think building relationships has the biggest payoff. So we're already planning another event in November, and it'll be a seniors and youth event. A couple of our high schools have green teams, and they're keen on working with seniors. Our October 1st event was a potluck and climate conversations. And when we distributed the emissions cap and also the one pager that lays out kind of the 5 goals or 5 actions of Seniors for Climate, the discussion arose like, where's the emissions cap campaign? What are we doing to decarbonize now? All of these immediate actions. And so people in our group have come up with specific actions that can be taken for each of the 5 main goals or main points of Seniors for Climate. I've shared that with Rowley and Brian and others. But 350.org has got a campaign to scrap the crap. The Canadian Pension Plan is doing public consultations. There's a bill before the Senate related to the investment industry and their investments in oil and gas. Gilbo is going to be tabling the draft policy for the emissions. Like, there are a number of things that are in the works right now, and it seems if we really are concerned about later being too late, we need to be getting on these opportunities that are available to us right now. And so we certainly will be encouraging people here in Yellowknife to take individual actions and to use their networks to feed into the pension plan consultations and cap the crop campaign and the like. So that's really all I'll say at the moment. But thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Nick, I
Yes,
just wanted
sure.
to draw your attention to the fact that we're out of time.
Yeah, we're just, I just want to take, okay, thank you. I didn't realize it had gone quite so quickly. Yes. So just very quick statements from Anna, like just half a minute, and from Lucien, please. And then we'll move to the, thanks, Ricky. I
Okay,
did lose track.
thank you. I'm Ann McAllister from the St. John area, actually just east of the city. And I really like Muriel Jarvis's suggestion, a fellow New Brunswicker. I like her suggestion of joining together. And I thought maybe for larger action, because I was on my own, I was a committee of one, and it would have been nice for a large action to have been part of maybe a coordinated effort. And then perhaps once momentum was built, more interest in getting some help at the local level could be found. And also I was thinking of ways to, attract people other than the committed, than the choir. And I'm wondering if maybe for local actions, approaching groups like social justice groups and organizing some kind of event that combines their concern and the climate and the impact the climate would have on the particular problem that or issue that they're dealing with. I wonder if that might be a way to actually build capacity and spread the word beyond the choir. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucien, very briefly, please, if you don't mind. You're on mute. You're on mute still. And by the way, yeah, go ahead, Lucien. You're still on mute.
Okay. Just quickly, like the idea of a spring event that'll bring us together. I'm from Alberta, the Global Foundation, and we are involved in planting trees. I know that the first week of June is kind of Environment Week. A lot of organizations are already planting trees that week, right across the country, and we were set up so that we kind of promote the planting of trees by seniors. Seniors in their backyard, they join a community in a park, or they organize another event, and then they click on a link and they report their planting, and that creates a national forest. We could create a virtual national forest for Seniors for Climate and actually keep tabs and calculate the CO2. Okay, that's just an idea. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being very brief too. I appreciate it. Okay, Ricky, do you want to introduce the poll?
Yes.
And don't,
and I want to
put your comments in the chat, anybody who hasn't had a chance. Sorry, Ricky.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm not sure how helpful the poll will be, because it sounds as if there is support for all four actions, for an event around October 1st, for a spring event, for local action, keeping on going, and in addition for other activities like the media training for elections, or webinars, or a speaker's tour, or other actions that might happen. But in any case, regardless, I would like to make sure that we have a good sense from everybody together on all of those four options. So Caroline is going to manage the poll, and I would invite you all to choose, and to tell you also that the poll will close when 90% of people have voted. And if after the poll, after the meeting, you want to continue to let us know what you're thinking, please do. Caroline, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to launch the poll, and the poll will show you all 4 options, and it's going to be really fast. What we're asking is you click one of the boxes for each option, which is yes, no, or maybe. And that'll just give you a tally. When we have 90% of responses, I'll stop the poll, and then we'll share the results, and that way we can see how people are. And we'll take this as indicative, not as a fully committed vote. All right, this is the first time I've done a poll, so bear with me if I get it. Let's see. All right, I think
We vote on all 4, yes, no, or maybe.
all 4, yeah. And you'll have to scroll down to see all of the options.
Yeah, so you do the first one, scroll down, do the second one, scroll down, do the third one, to the fourth one. Starting to come in.
You guys are fast. We have 70 people on.
Starting to come in, that's good. I mean, it's coming along.
Yeah, it is. Excellent. Thank you all for answering this. We'll just wait till the bottom hits 65, number 4. We're getting close. All right. If anybody wants to vote on the last one, it looks like not everyone did. Otherwise, I'll close the poll. I'll give you 10 seconds. All right, I'm ending the poll, and now I'm sharing the results, which you can see. Actually, yeah, and I think that you'll have to scroll down to see them again. So, Ricky, what I'm seeing is you've got strong yeses for number 1, even more so for number 2, and 3 and 4. So, as you anticipated, this is just reinforcing what you already heard.
Right. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'm sure that the steering committee will take your advice and your comments in the chat very seriously and come back with either further questions or further proposals in the very, very soon future. So thank you all, and back to Nick.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to introduce Michael Barkley, who's going to take us into the last section of the meeting. Michael?
Thanks. So structure. So I don't know, we've talked about what is possible. The question is, how is it going to be organized? And the steering committee and the coordinating committee have been discussing this. So you may know that there's a structure already in place, which comprises a steering committee, which is sort of like a board. And then there's a coordinating committee, which has been 3 people at one point and a 4th towards the end, leading up to October 1st. And the coordinating committee is sort of like an executive committee, if you want to think of a board and an executive committee. And if you want to think of it also in that terms, then the constituency is in red outside of the circle. Seniors is obviously the major focus or force behind it. But we also think that we have these other constituencies that we really have to spend a lot of collaboration with. And the only way to make this thing really work is to ensure that whatever we do in terms of either events or activities, that we include Indigenous people and better relations with Indigenous community, a better understanding about how we can support them, and of course youth, that really keeping us together with the youth movement is really, I think, fairly critical for all of us, just in terms of even hope for the future. It's the youth that we're working for, really. The broader climate change movement, we can't do this alone. We really want to collaborate with everybody working on these issues. And then, of course, we're trying to influence people. We're trying to influence the business leaders, elected government officials, and politicians. The way we have been structured, you can see in the yellow area that there were leading up to work groups, or sometimes it was just an individual. Sometimes it was more than an individual, a small group of people working on all of the issues that are in the yellow area: artwork and visuals, administration, financing and fundraising, and so on. We think that those are actually probably the critical areas that would have to continue, even if we were just doing another event in the fall of 2025. But as it seems like there's even more interest in doing a variety of things, we think that these kind of work groups are probably going to be fairly critical moving forward. So that's sort of how we see the macro structure of the organization. And so, your comments on that would be helpful. But how is it really organized and coordinated? Who is going to do all of this is the next question. So I think if we move off this slide, then I can get into a little more conversation about this. It's very important that this chart you see is a draft. It's only for discussion. It's an idea that came up in the coordinating committee. So the first picture you saw was from the steering committee, and this pretty much is more at the coordinating committee level. We were trying to figure out, well, what would the coordinating committee, assuming that we keep the structure that's worked pretty well for us, what would these groups look like, a coordinating committee and the steering committee? And the one thing that exists now is that the 4 people currently on the coordinating committee are all in Ontario. That to us doesn't make a lot of sense going forward. And the other thing is that we don't have this geographic diversity. Here we're trying to be a national organization. We can't continue to have it being run by a whole bunch of people in Ontario. It really doesn't work in the long run. So we're thinking the steering committee, or the board, the larger sort of group that would be setting the direction and making decisions. As you know, there are currently 6 sponsors that started this whole thing. Now, there may be other seniors organizations that are out there that would like to sponsor Seniors for Climate, and so that number could change. But we're looking at the current 6 sponsors, and then we kind of just suggested 8 members at large. This would give us, and one of the key elements we also don't have is diversity. And in fact, currently your coordinating committee is 4 white males. So diversity is a struggle for us, and geography obviously is a struggle. So we're suggesting that we look at trying to allocate positions based on geography. We also recognize that there needs to be a skill set mix that might be needed, and we could add people. So this 14 is not fixed in, or the 8 members at large, none of it's sort of fixed in stone. We needed a certain skill set that wasn't there. We could definitely, look for that and add somebody to the steering committee. But this would be kind of a minimum, would be this picture. The coordinating committee, we started with 3 people who did the bulk of the work in between steering committee meetings. We met every week. And then we added David, the 4th person on the team. again, bringing a skill set that we really needed. And that really, even the 4 wasn't quite enough. So we're suggesting that there be 5 members. And again, it have gender balance and diversity. We think about that as well in terms of how people are appointed. Then we thought, well, how are we going to pick those 5? Maybe the same same concept of having somebody from the various regions, and that's how you would get there. So the other thing I wanted to mention, if you look on the steering committee, you'll notice that there's nobody from Ontario underneath the geography bullet, and that's because the 6 sponsors, 5 of them are from Ontario, and they're already on there. And that, that would be an interesting thing for us to look at. It's finding other organizations who are specifically seniors climate organizations to be part of the sponsoring groups. So that's just we want. I don't think I need to talk more about this. I think really the discussion is what's really important. So I'd like to. I think we can take this off the screen and just open it up for discussion. So again, your virtual hand would be appreciated because we can't see 70 people. So let's start with Pat.
Just to let you know, we have about 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes.
Okay, great. Pat. You're on mute, Pat.
Mute there. Am I unmuted?
Yes. You're good.
Okay, great. I'm kind of pinch hitting for Margaret Ann McHugh, who wasn't able to attend. But I just want to comment on one thing, which is kind of a pet peeve, is about one representative for 4 provinces in the Atlantic. That can be a real, I mean, I understand why it's usually done that way, is because of population division, but we have 4 separate governments. We have 4 separate sets of organizations that all have to be related to. And so I'm just questioning that.
I think we did suggest 2, not 1.
Sorry, 2. It's still it's 4.
I know.
Just when you're organizing activities, especially if we're focusing on lobbying and advocating within government agencies or provincial agencies, or and a lot of the potential allies are all different groups within those 4 provinces too. So it's just something to raise that might not be a problem for everybody else. And I'm sorry, I just figured out how to raise my hand, so maybe you're lucky I didn't get to speak in any other forums.
No, that's great. Thanks, Pat. Letitia.
Thanks. Just to add another complication, I saw there was, the Quebec reality included, but there's also Anglophones in Quebec and there's Francophones outside of Quebec. That if we're going to be a national organization, I think those people need to be included as well.
I think that was in our mind when we were thinking about diversity, but it's very good to point out. Thank you. Donna Fay.
It seems to be an age-old problem. Not enough women. Oh, the women don't have enough experience. They don't have the right skill sets. But most of us aren't stupid, and we can learn as we go. I also, it's a pet peeve of mine that we don't have much diversity. I'm the only lesbian that I know of out. I think there probably are more. There aren't many people of color. Like, the diversity really stinks. Why don't we have a diversity committee or work on that, please? Thanks.
Thank you. Important comment. Who else? So it's we can't possibly be finished this quickly.
Could I just,
it just doesn't work that way.
yeah,
Pat,
got
and then, was that Brian?
yes,
Okay, so Brian or
Yeah.
Pat first and then Brian.
It's Pat Wally in Winnipeg. I'm just wondering how people would people be appointed to these committees? Or how do people get on them? Or have we thought about how that's
Well,
gonna?
well, we've thought a bit about it. We don't have any, complete answers about that, but I think the problem is finding anybody to step forward in the first place. So I think, we had started this looking at hopefully having regional structures, kind of hubs, and that we would then be able to go to the hub and say, can you appoint somebody for your
Okay, no, just wondered. Thank you.
to break that down.
Yeah, Michael, your
so that
internet is
that was
breaking
sort of
up.
what we were thinking.
Yeah, Michael froze
yeah,
there.
I'm
Michael,
out in
you
the
froze
country.
for a second. You might have to just repeat what you said.
So I'll try again. Hopefully I won't freeze. We had thought about using the hub model when we started this whole process, and that the idea was that we would try to go to those hubs and get people to step forward. It's very difficult to get people to volunteer for this. So we may start this process by just going to the region, people to, that's sort of how we thought about
I think what
getting
Michael's saying is
the steering committee.
Okay, did people catch the idea? Okay.
Michael,
Kelly?
if I could suggest, maybe turn your video off, and that might concentrate your bandwidth on your voice.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, and Michael, I think we can take two more speakers, and then we'll go to the
And
straw
Kelly.
poll. Well, Brian was up too.
Okay, Kelly and Lynn. Oh, Brian, I forgot Brian. Let's start with Brian. I'm sorry, Kelly.
yeah. Michael, could you just elaborate slightly on Quebec? Because I didn't, I saw the questions in the chat and you made a slight comment about it. I myself don't believe that any special accommodation has to be made for the English in Quebec. I think that'll sort itself out quite nicely. But I'd be interested to know if you could elaborate a little bit on what the coordinating committee was considering about Quebec.
Well, we had, when we were trying to organize October 1st, we realized that establishing relations with the climate organizations operating in Quebec was going to take much more time than we had for this October 1st. But Rowley had made some connections with folks in Quebec before October 1st. And everybody agreed that we would have conversations after October 1st about how we could collaborate with Quebec on a Canadian-wide seniors for climate movement, recognizing that there would be probably differences that may make it really complicated to do something exactly the same in each jurisdiction. And so that's an ongoing conversation. But what we thought would be important is to have a representative from Quebec on our steering committee so that we could make sure those conversations occurred more directly than they do by just having one person on the steering committee having chats with people in Quebec. So we would have a position on the steering committee for somebody who was interested in trying to develop how we could collaborate with Quebec.
Thanks, Michael. We're gonna have to.
I don't know if that helps.
Okay, we're running out
Kelly?
of time, so you have to be very brief. I'm sorry, Kelly and Lynn, but go
Yeah,
ahead,
I'll be very brief. Just kind of wondering if it was an oversight why there's no representation from Northwest, Nunavut, and Yukon. Is that a consideration?
Yes, definitely it is. And I thought the territories was in that list, and if it wasn't, it
think
should have
it's
been.
on the slide, or I omitted it, Kelly. I took Michael's material, but definitely it was in Michael's list. My bad if I took it out of the
Yeah,
graphics.
sorry.
Okay.
And I guess I didn't
That's it.
see that missing. Sorry about that. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Lynn, quickly, please, if you can.
Okay, hi. This question I think is maybe for you, Nick. Just a quick question. Edmonton is just wondering if we could become a chapter group, and we're just wondering if other groups across the country would be interested in becoming chapters. When we brought it up, Nick, you had thought that that might be a possibility. We're just wondering if you've been able to talk to other SCAN members or SFC.
Okay, so that's okay, so Seniors for Climate doesn't have chapters. We have like people that take their own initiatives, etc. You're asking a question about SCAN, but we'll have to deal with that outside of this meeting because it's really, this meeting isn't really about that.
Yeah, I think it's often a confusion that people think that SCAN is Seniors for Climate. Well, SCAN is one of the sponsors of Seniors for Climate, but SCAN is not Seniors for Climate. And that often is a confusion of people. So we have to try to keep those separate.
Yes, it's not easy.
So I think we go to the poll now, right?
Yeah.
This has all been very helpful.
People will just hang on after the
Thank
poll.
you.
We'll just do a bit of a wrap up. Go ahead.
Okay. Coming, okay. All right, this is one question, and the two options are I like it, or I would like to make some suggestions to improve it by, you might not be able to see it, October 31st.
And I'll just add one thing to the poll before you answer it. That this was a draft for discussion, and we knew we didn't have a lot of time to do it. So we kind of assumed that there may be a lot more input that people would like to give, and we're certainly willing to figure out how to do that before we sort of finalize some kind of structure. So, and this conversation has been very helpful for that. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll same thing. We'll go to about 90% response before we close it.
Yeah, we're at 60 now, so somewhere above 50 is what we're looking for.
Anybody
We're at
else want to vote?
48.
We're just getting close to 50 people voting.
Someone take us over 50, please.
Okay, looks like we got
There we
all the
go.
votes. Okay, good. Thank you. So you want to show those results then?
Yeah, so the results, 41 out of 50 of you said you like it, and 9 out of 50 would like to make some suggestions to improve it, which is exactly what Michael is asking. So that's great.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay,
Really
and
helpful.
so how to make the suggestions? Which address should be used?
I think
Admin?
we should be using admin at
Okay.
Seniors.
David Smith, can you put that address in the chat, please?
I
That people
will,
send
and
it?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you very much to everyone for being here tonight. We wanted to say, you know, that it isn't enough that we started. We actually have to step up and continue to build. And I think that tonight set the basis for that. The input that you gave gives us some sense of where we have to go. We have to resolve pretty quickly some important decisions around timing and around what our capabilities are. We have to get back to you soon, and we will do that. And I'm expecting, although we haven't finalized this, that there'll be another meeting roughly the same time in November, where we will come back to you with something to say in terms of how we move forward. We'll try and also give you a report out of this meeting. And again, it'll take a bit of time to put all the chat information together, etc. The video has been, sorry, the meeting has been recorded. That'll be available soon. We'll try and do that as soon as possible. And I think that there's good, strong evidence that people are ready to move forward, and it's just a matter of how do we do it? How do we work together? How do we maximize our effect? So looking forward to more work with others and more like building. Going forward, we have to expand our numbers. We have to reach people who haven't been reached yet, and that's the task. Bring in new people, expand our numbers, and keep building. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.